Besides being a former Alaskan, I have a fondness in my heart for the Aurora Borealis, or Northern Lights, because not only are they beautiful, but they also have to do with weather.
Space weather, to be exact.
When we talk about space weather, it's always a little funny to say space weather, but you got to remember something as big and powerful as the sun has a lot going on. It's a really dynamic place.
The sun goes through what is called its solar cycle about every 11 years, where its magnetic poles literally flip. The sun's solar maximum will be in 2025, and that is likely one of the reasons we've seen the Northern Lights as far south as Central Oregon recently.
And let me tell you, the pics and videos y'all sent were amazing.
The Aurora Borealis, known as the Aurora Australis in the southern hemisphere, is created when solar storms charged with magnetized particles get bent and stretched and finally break away from the sun at great velocity.
And if that storm is pointed towards Earth, those charged particles from the sun will slam into our magnetic field, wrap around the magnetic field because that field is protecting us, and then travel down to the North and South Pole, and the particles will excite elements in our atmosphere, oxygen, nitrogen.
The light from a solar flare is seen almost instantaneously, but the solar wind travels below the speed of light, so oftentimes the effects arrive hours or even days later.
This recent storm was pretty quick. The solar wind was traveling towards us at 2 million miles per hour. It's generally maybe half that. So it got here quicker than we expected and was more active than we expected as well.
But little did I know, solar flares may be the least known worst case scenario for humanity.
About 100 years ago, there was a storm large enough that basically shut down the preliminary power grid of the entire United States.
In 1859, Richard Christopher Carrington was one of the first two humans to observe a solar flare at his private observatory. He drew diagrams of what he saw and marveled at what it could have been.
Well, 17.6 hours later, he found out in what is now called the Carrington event, and the world had no idea what to make of it.
Auroras were seen as far south as Cuba, and our early version of the internet, the telegraph, which was humanity's first electrical form of communication, lit up like a candle. A telegraph conversation was recorded between Boston, Massachusetts and Portland, Maine that lasted for 2 hours, with both operators having completely unplugged their batteries.
They were managing to communicate solely off the electricity generated by the solar storm.
Back then, the telegraph was our only electronic grid. Now we have thousands. Our lives depend on electricity, and we have satellites with crucial communications technologies on them circling Earth in the thousands.
NASA has done impact studies that if that same storm happened now, because of how dependent on technology we are, it would be probably around $2 trillion in damage. And the power grid could be down for anywhere from like 6 months to a year or two.
Imagine that everyone on Earth suddenly lost use of electricity. No cell phones, no refrigeration.
No Central Oregon Daily News? It'd be chaos.
Thankfully, the countries of the world are aware of the threat and have created reaction scenarios that would hopefully minimize the impact on humanity. But just like storms on Earth, solar storms can come in all shapes and sizes.
So for now, let's just kick back and appreciate the fact that our planet, through some weird science, has a magnetic field at all. One that not only protects us,
but leaves us in awe. Scott Elness, Central Oregon Daily News.